For nearly 15 years, the Glasspoint Tower had been one of the busiest office buildings in downtown Chicago, 26 floors, more than 2,000 employees. Every hallway was covered by security cameras, every access card was logged. Nothing unusual had ever been reported. Until one Friday night, around 11:40 p.m., the night cleaning supervisor noticed something strange. The elevator display briefly showed a floor that didn't exist. 27, the building only had 26 floors. He assumed it was a software glitch. The display returned to normal a second later. He forgot about it. Until the following week, several cleaning staff filed similar reports. Late at night the elevator would briefly stop above the 26th floor. The doors never opened. No one was ever inside. Building management blamed faulty electronics. The elevator manufacturer inspected every control system. No malfunction was found. According to every diagnostic report, floor 27 simply did not exist. The investigation officially began after a security guard reported something impossible. During his midnight patrol he checked the live camera feeds. One monitor displayed a long office corridor, rows of glass offices, conference rooms, bright white lights. Employees quietly working at their desks. Everything looked perfectly normal. Except there were no cameras installed on any 27th floor, because there was no 27th floor. When the guard rushed to the elevator the display showed only 26. He rode to the top. The doors opened onto the executive offices. Exactly as expected. No extra floor. No hidden hallway. When he returned to the security room, the mysterious camera feed had disappeared. The recording had never been saved. 3 nights later the same camera activated again. This time the guard noticed one detail. Every employee inside the unknown office wore identical gray identification badges. None displayed names. Only numbers. Each desk contained exactly the same objects. One computer. One telephone. One cup of black coffee. One stack of blank paper. No one spoke. No one looked up. Everyone simply worked. Until exactly 12 a.m. At the stroke of midnight, every employee stopped typing simultaneously. Slowly they all turned toward the camera, as if they had realized someone was watching. After the mysterious camera feed appeared, building management decided to increase security. From that night forward, every security guard worked in pairs. Each guard wore a body camera. Every recording was automatically backed up to a separate secure server. If the mysterious office really existed this time, it had to leave some kind of evidence. 4 nights passed. Nothing happened. The elevators worked perfectly. The surveillance cameras showed nothing except empty hallways. At 2:00 a.m., the head of security was about to finish the nightly incident log. Then one of the monitors flickered. The same office appeared once again. Bright white lights. Glass-walled offices. Long rows of desks, employees working in complete silence. This time the image was much clearer. The guard zoomed in. One employee wore a gray identification badge. For the first time the number could be read, 451, no name. Only the number. A few seconds later, the employee slowly stood up. He calmly walked toward a large filing cabinet. He opened one of the drawers. Inside was a thick personnel file. Printed across the spine were the words, Glasspoint Tower. The employee opened the folder. Inside were hundreds of personnel records. Every file contained a photograph. Accountants, lawyers, janitors, security guards, managers. Every employee who had ever worked in the building seemed to be there. Across each file the same red stamp had been placed. Compiliad, the security guard held his breath. The employee turned another page. Then another. Finally he stopped. He removed an empty folder from the cabinet. Across the cover only one word had been printed. Next, at that exact moment, the image twitched slightly. Employee 451 slowly raised his head. He looked directly into the surveillance camera. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't angry. His face showed no emotion at all. Then he quietly placed the empty folder on the desk beside him, as though he was waiting for someone to collect it. The following morning, the head of security received an unexpected visitor. A woman had arrived looking for her husband. He worked on the building's night cleaning crew. He had left for work the previous evening and never returned home. His name appeared in the work schedule. His access card had been recorded entering the building. The lobby cameras clearly showed him walking inside, but not a single camera showed him leaving. police immediately began reviewing the surveillance footage. Then one detective suddenly froze the image. Inside the impossible office, standing beside the filing cabinet, was another employee. A new gray badge hung from his jacket. 452, the face was slightly blurred. But the height, the uniform, even the cleaning cart beside him matched the missing janitor perfectly. No one could explain how a man who had disappeared only hours earlier was now working inside an office that did not exist. Then the detective zoomed in one final time. A blank sheet of paper rested on employee 452's desk. As everyone watched, black letters slowly began appearing across the page. "Welcome to the night shift." The investigation immediately changed. Police no longer searched for a missing janitor. They searched for an office that wasn't supposed to exist. Every architectural blueprint of Glasspoint Tower was reviewed. The original construction plans, every renovation permit, every emergency evacuation map, every document agreed on one fact. The building ended at the 26th floor. There was no hidden level, no sealed offices, no abandoned section, nothing. The surveillance team decided to monitor the mysterious camera feed every night. But something strange happened. The office never appeared at the same time twice. One night it showed up at 11:58 p.m. The next night, 1:13 a.m. Then 2:41 a.m. The only pattern anyone could find was that it always appeared after almost everyone had left the building. As if the office refused to exist while the building was still awake. Employee 452 appeared in every broadcast. He never looked at the camera again. He simply worked, typing, filing paperwork, answering a telephone that never rang, drinking coffee that never seemed to grow cold. Everything inside the office repeated with perfect precision. The same movements. The same order. Night after night. One evening, Detective Laura Bennett noticed something unusual. Employee 452 wasn't typing. He was writing slowly, carefully, by hand. He filled an entire sheet of paper. When he finished, he folded it once, placed it inside an envelope, then walked toward a gray mailbox standing near the office entrance. No one had ever noticed the mailbox before. Across its front was a small brass plaque. Outgoing mail. Employee 452 placed the envelope inside, then returned to his desk. Nothing else happened. The broadcast ended. The next morning an envelope was discovered in the real building. It was lying on the reception counter. No one had seen who delivered it. There were no fingerprints, no postage stamp, no return address, only one line written across the front. For Detective Laura Bennett, she carefully opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Written in neat handwriting were only 2 sentences. "You are watching us because you think we're trapped." Below it one final line. "We've been watching you leave every night." Laura felt a chill run down her spine. She slowly looked toward the glass entrance of the building. Employees were leaving for the evening, walking into the city, talking, laughing, living ordinary lives. For the first time she found herself wondering, which office was real? The one outside or the one that never closed? After the letter addressed to Detective Laura Bennett was delivered, the investigation was classified. A federal task force was assigned to Glasspoint Tower. The building remained open. Employees continued arriving every morning as if nothing had happened. But every night after 11 p.m. the offices emptied. Only the security staff remained. That was when the other shift seemed to begin. The mysterious office appeared again the following night. Everything looked exactly the same. The same desks, the same computers, the same silent employees. But this time, Laura noticed something new. Mounted beside the office entrance was a large electronic attendance board. Its white display glowed softly in the quiet office. A long list of employee numbers filled the screen. 448, 449, 451, 452. Beside every number glowed the same green status. Present. Laura continued watching. Then another line slowly appeared at the bottom of the display. One character at a time. 453. For several seconds the status remained blank. Then new letters appeared. Arriving at that exact moment, an elevator inside the real Glasspoint Tower began moving on its own. No one had called it. Security cameras followed its progress. After floor 12, 16, 21, 26, then the display suddenly went dark. 1 second later it lit up again. 27. Everyone in the security room stared at the monitor. The elevator remained there for exactly 10 seconds. Then it quietly descended back to the lobby. When the doors opened, the cabin was empty, except for one object lying on the floor. A gray employee badge. No name, only a number. 453. Laura carefully picked it up while wearing protective gloves. The plastic badge felt warm, as though someone had been holding it only moments earlier. She turned it over. Engraved on the back were 4 simple words: "Your first day." That same night the impossible office returned. Employee 452 was working at his desk as usual, but beside him a second workstation had appeared. It was empty. Waiting, on the desk sat a computer, a telephone, a cup of black coffee, a neat stack of blank paper, and a gray identification badge. 453. No one approached the workstation. No one even looked at it. Every employee continued working as though the empty desk had always been there. Laura refused to look away. Then, without warning, every employee stopped working at exactly the same moment. One by one they slowly stood, not looking toward the camera. Instead they all turned toward the empty workstation, silently surrounding it, as though they were waiting for someone to arrive. A second later every monitor inside the security room went black. When power returned, the office had disappeared. But another envelope now rested on the security desk. No address, no name, only a short message written in black ink. "You must never be late." Laura slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed neatly across the center were the words, "The night shift begins when the day shift believes the work is finished." Beneath the message one time had been printed, 11 p.m. and below it tomorrow's date. Laura didn't know it yet, but before the next sunrise someone else inside Glasspoint Tower would disappear, and for the very first time the attendance board would display, 453, present, the following day. Laura never went home. Instead, she remained inside Glasspoint Tower. At exactly 10:30 p.m., she and the Federal Task Force took positions inside the security control room. This time, they weren't there just to observe. Every entrance to the building was locked. The elevators were switched to manual control. Armed agents were stationed on every floor. If the mysterious office truly existed tonight, they were going to find it. At 10:59 p.m., the lights throughout the entire building suddenly went out. Only for a few seconds. When the emergency lighting came on, every monitor inside the security room was already displaying the same impossible office. But something had changed. The empty workstation was no longer empty. Employee 453 was sitting there. His head was lowered, his face couldn't be seen. He quietly sorted through stacks of paperwork, as though he had worked there for years. Laura zoomed in. Her heart nearly stopped. On the employee's left wrist was a silver watch, exactly the same model worn by one of the federal agents. Laura turned around immediately. The agent's chair was empty. His radio still rested on the desk. His jacket still hung over the back of the chair. But the agent himself was gone. No one remembered seeing him leave the room. At that exact moment, every office telephone inside the building began ringing. All at once, every floor, every office. The ringing wouldn't stop. One of the security guards finally answered the nearest phone. There was no voice, no static, only the quiet, rhythmic sound of typing on a keyboard, steady, endless, as though hundreds of unseen employees were working together inside one enormous office. Then the electronic attendance board inside the mysterious office changed. Beside employee 453, the green status reading "present" slowly faded away. A new word appeared, permanent. Immediately beneath it another employee number appeared, 454. Its status remained blank. Silence filled the security room. No one said a word. Everyone understood what the new number meant. Laura slowly lowered her eyes to the printed roster of the Federal Task Force. The next service number on the list was hers. 454. At that exact moment her government-issued phone vibrated inside her pocket. There was no caller ID, only a single notification. "Your shift begins in 5 minutes." Laura immediately turned off the phone. A second later, the screen lit up again by itself. A new message appeared. "All new employees are expected to arrive on time." Laura slowly looked back at the monitor. Every employee inside the impossible office, without lifting their eyes from their desks, raised their right hands at exactly the same moment. Silently they all pointed toward the office entrance, as though they were waiting for her. Laura never answered the message. Instead, she removed the battery from her government-issued phone. She wanted to prove that whatever was happening it followed rules, and every rule could be broken. She placed the phone inside an evidence bag, locked it inside a metal cabinet, then returned to the security room. The screen of the phone remained dark for exactly 1 minute. Then without a battery it lit up. A new notification appeared. Employee 454 is late. At 11:05 p.m., every monitor inside the security room changed at once. The impossible office was still there, but no one was working. Every desk was empty, every computer remained on. Every cup of coffee still steamed, every chair had been pushed back as though everyone had stood up at exactly the same moment. Laura slowly scanned the room. Something felt wrong. Then she realized it. The office wasn't empty, it was looking at them. Every computer monitor inside the impossible office displayed the live security room, not a recording. A live image. Laura. The agents. The security guards. Everyone. They were the ones being observed now. One of the agents whispered, "Turn the cameras off." The security technician disconnected the surveillance system. Every cable was removed. Every recorder shut down. The monitors went black. For a few seconds the room was silent. Then every monitor turned back on by itself. The office remained. And now every computer inside it showed a different angle of the security room. Angles that no camera inside the building could possibly see. One view looked directly over Laura's shoulder. Another watched the back of the room. A third showed the ceiling. Someone or something was standing where no camera had ever been installed. Then every office computer displayed the same sentence. Please report to Human Resources. The lights inside the impossible office dimmed. At the far end of the room a door slowly opened. A brass plaque beside it read, Human Resources. No one had ever seen that door before. Employee 453 calmly walked toward it. He knocked once. The door opened by itself. He stepped inside. The door quietly closed. 5 seconds later the attendance board changed again. 453 archived immediately beneath it. Employee 454 changed from blank to, arriving. Laura felt the blood drain from her face. Without warning every elevator in Glasspoint Tower arrived at the lobby simultaneously. Every door opened. Every cabin was empty. Except for one, the center elevator. Its floor indicator no longer displayed numbers. Only one message glowed softly. HR. No one pressed a button. No one moved. The doors remained open, waiting. Then every office telephone rang again. This time, Laura answered. The familiar sound of typing filled the line. After several long seconds, a calm voice finally spoke. The same emotionless voice from every broadcast, from every recording, from every impossible office. It said only one sentence. Your interview is ready. The line went dead. Laura slowly looked toward the open elevator. The display still read, HR, and somewhere far above the 26th floor she thought she heard hundreds of keyboards typing in perfect unison. No one dared step inside. One of the federal agents slowly approached the elevator and tossed a metal flashlight into the cabin. The flashlight landed on the floor and disappeared. There was no sound, no impact. It simply vanished. As though the elevator no longer contained a floor. The doors remained open, waiting. Then another notification appeared on Laura's phone. She hadn't touched it. The battery was still locked inside the evidence cabinet. Yet the screen glowed. A calendar reminder filled the display. Interview 11:10 p.m. Attendance required. Below it only one button existed. Accept, no option to decline. Laura ignored the phone. Instead, she ordered the elevators to be shut down completely. The chief engineer disconnected the main power. Emergency generators were switched off. The control panels lost power. Every elevator display went dark. Except one. The center elevator. Its display still read, HR. Suddenly every office computer inside the impossible office switched on at once. The security room watched in silence. Each monitor displayed an empty digital document. One after another lines of text began typing themselves. No keyboard moved. No hands appeared. The documents filled automatically. Each one was an employee performance review. Employee number 448 performance, excellent status. Permanent employee number 449 performance, excellent status. Permanent employee number 450 performance, excellent status, permanent. The documents continued. Finally, the last file opened. Employee 454 Performance Review. The page remained blank. Then letters slowly appeared. Interview pending. Laura suddenly heard footsteps. Not from the hallway, from above. Heavy footsteps, hundreds of them, walking together, slow, perfectly synchronized. There was no 27th floor. Yet the sound grew louder, the ceiling vibrated. Dust drifted into the air. Every person in the security room looked upward. The footsteps stopped, complete silence. Then every office telephone rang once. Exactly once. Laura answered before anyone could stop her. No typing this time. No static. Only breathing, slow, calm, patient. Finally the familiar voice spoke. Your coworkers are waiting. The call ended. At that exact moment the center elevator doors slowly began closing. Just before they shut completely, Laura caught a glimpse inside. The cabin wasn't empty anymore. Rows of office desks stretched into the darkness. Computers glowed softly. Employees sat silently at every workstation. Each wore a gray badge, each typed without looking up. One desk remained empty. A gray badge rested neatly beside its keyboard. 454. The elevator doors closed. The display changed one final time. Interview in progress. No one in the security room moved. No one spoke. Somewhere above the building the sound of hundreds of keyboards began again. Typing. Without pause. Without end. Several long seconds passed after the elevator doors closed. The security room was completely silent. The only sound came from the ventilation system humming overhead. Then every monitor switched to the impossible office once again. But this time the camera was much closer. Slowly it moved between the rows of workstations, as though someone was walking through the office. None of the employees acknowledged the camera. They continued working in complete silence. Some typed endlessly, others organized stacks of paperwork. Some answered telephones that never seemed to ring. Every movement was calm, precise, perfectly routine, as though they had repeated the same workday for countless years. The camera finally stopped beside workstation 454. The chair remained empty. The computer was already powered on. Across its screen appeared a single message. Logging in. A few moments later the text changed. Waiting for employee. At that exact moment Laura's federal identification badge vibrated inside her jacket pocket. Then vibrated again. She slowly removed it. The name printed across the plastic card was disappearing. Letter by letter. As though an invisible hand was erasing the ink. Within less than a minute her name was completely gone. Only 4 numbers remained. 454. Laura stared at the badge without speaking. One of the federal agents carefully took it from her. This has to be some kind of trick, he whispered. The instant he finished speaking every document lying on the security desk changed. Laura Bennett's name disappeared. Investigation reports. Personnel rosters. Evidence logs. Every document now identified her only as employee number 454. The entire team rushed to their computers. Laura's federal personnel file no longer existed. Every government database returned the same result. Instead of her investigation profile, a simple employee record appeared. Employee number 454 department. Night shift employment begins. Today employment ends. The final field remained blank. Laura slammed the laptop shut. We're leaving, now. No one argued. The entire team hurried toward the main entrance. But when they reached the lobby the glass exit doors were still closed, not locked. Beyond the glass the city was gone. There were no streets, no buildings, no lights. Only an endless office. Rows of identical desks. The same hanging lamps, the same silent employees. It was as though Glasspoint Tower itself had somehow become part of the impossible office. At that exact moment every clock inside the building stopped. Every hand froze at exactly 11 p.m. forever. Then every computer throughout Glasspoint Tower powered on by itself. Every screen displayed the same message. Welcome, employee number 454. Your workday begins now. Laura stared silently at the glowing screens. Then she noticed something no one else seemed to see. Reflected in one dark monitor behind her, stood dozens of silent employees wearing gray identification badges. None of them moved, none of them blinked. They simply waited, patiently. As though they already knew their newest coworker was about to take her seat. No one touched the computers. No one spoke. Every monitor displayed the same message. Welcome, Impulse number 454, your workday begins now. Then without warning every screen changed. A document opened automatically. Its title read, Impulse Handbook. The pages slowly turned by themselves. No keyboard moved, no mouse was touched. Rule after rule appeared on the screen. Rule number 1, arrive before your shift begins. Rule number 2, never leave your workstation without permission. Rule number 3, if you hear footsteps after midnight, continue working. Rule number 4, do not look toward human resources unless instructed. The pages continued turning. Finally the last rule appeared. Rule number 13, if your name is forgotten, your employment becomes permanent. Silence filled the security room. Laura slowly looked around. Something felt wrong, very wrong. One of the federal agents was staring at her. Confused, he frowned. I'm sorry, he said quietly. What was your name again? Laura didn't answer. Another agent spoke. I was just wondering the same thing. Within seconds everyone in the room was trying to remember. No one could. They remembered the investigation. They remembered the impossible office. They remembered Employee 454. But Laura Bennett was already beginning to disappear from their memories. Laura grabbed the nearest evidence folder. Across its cover someone had handwritten, Case File Number 011. She opened it. The first reports were still there. The elevator. The surveillance footage. Employee number 451. Employee number 452. Everything remained unchanged until she reached the final page. The newest report had never existed before. Subject, Employee number 454. Status, Orientation in Progress. Supervisor assigned. Below the report someone had signed their name. Only one word. Management. The lights flickered. Then every office telephone rang. No one answered. The ringing stopped by itself. A few seconds later every printer inside the building started printing simultaneously. Hundreds of pages poured onto the floors. Agents picked them up. Every page contained the same organizational chart. At the very top no CEO, no company president, only one department. Human resources. Below it every employee number. And now Laura suddenly noticed something reflected in the glass wall beside her. The security room was no longer full. Half the agents had vanished. Not physically. The chairs were empty. Coffee cups remained. Jackets still hung over the chairs. But everyone else behaved as though those people had never been there. Laura turned toward the remaining agents. No one seemed alarmed. No one even noticed. One agent calmly asked, "Why are there so many empty chairs?" Another shrugged. "I think they've always been empty." Laura realized the terrifying pattern. The office wasn't taking people, it was taking memory. First your name, then your records. Then everyone else's memory of you. Only after no one remembered who you were, did you become another employee. At that exact moment her identification badge vibrated once more. The display had changed. Immediately a muted 454 origination complete. A new line appeared beneath it. Please report to your workstation. Then somewhere above the ceiling she heard the elevator arrive. A soft electronic chime echoed through the building. Ding! Someone had reached the 27th floor. After the elevator's soft chime the entire building became perfectly still. No one spoke, no one moved. Even the ventilation system suddenly fell silent. A heavy stillness settled over Glasspoint Tower. It felt as though time itself had stopped. Then every monitor switched back to the impossible office. But this time the camera wasn't focused on the employees. It was pointed directly at the entrance, as though it was waiting. Slowly the office door opened. Someone stepped inside. The figure wore a dark gray suit. A thick folder rested beneath one arm. Its face remained hidden in shadow. Without saying a word, the figure walked to workstation 454. It gently placed the folder beside the keyboard, then quietly turned and disappeared through the same doorway. Not a single employee looked up. They continued working as if nothing had happened. A few seconds later the computer at workstation 454 powered on. A document opened automatically. Its title read, Employee Assignment. One line after another filled itself in. Employee number, 454. Department, Night Shift. Position, Observer. Employment begins today. Then the final line appeared. Previous name. The field remained blank, as though no name had ever existed. At that exact moment Laura felt something slipping away. She tried to remember her childhood, her school, her first day as a police officer, her parents' faces. but every memory became increasingly distant, as though someone was slowly erasing them. She could still remember fragments, moments, places, but she could no longer remember who they belonged to. One of the federal agents suddenly looked at her. "Excuse me," he asked politely, "how long have you worked the night shift?" Laura didn't answer. She realized he wasn't joking. To him, she was no longer a federal detective. She was simply another employee. Inside the impossible office, every worker stopped typing at exactly the same moment. Slowly they all stood. For the very first time every one of them turned toward the camera. Without speaking, one by one they raised their gray identification badges. There were no names, no photographs, only numbers. And finally, the workstation that had stood empty only moments before now had its own badge waiting. Then the center elevator opened once again, silently. Inside there was no elevator car. Only soft white light. And a single message floating above the doorway. "Welcome back." Laura took one slow step forward. None of the federal agents tried to stop her. In fact, none of them even looked at her anymore. It was as though she had already left the room. Or perhaps she had never been there at all. She stopped in front of the open doorway, looked inside. Beyond the entrance an endless office stretched into the distance. Rows of identical desks disappeared beyond the horizon. Warm ceiling lights illuminated endless aisles. Hundreds of employees worked in complete silence. No one looked up. Except one, employee 451 slowly lifted his head. For the first time since the investigation had begun he gave Laura the smallest nod. A quiet welcome. From one employee to another. Laura closed her eyes. She still remembered that once she had a name, but she could no longer remember what it was. She stepped forward, the elevator doors quietly closed. The display changed one final time. Night shift, full staff. 2 weeks later the Federal Commission officially concluded its investigation. The final report stated that no anomalies had been discovered inside Glasspoint Tower. Every employee had been accounted for. No missing persons had ever been reported. The case was officially closed. The evidence was archived, yet employees who occasionally remain inside the building after 11 p.m. still tell the same story. If you happen to glance at the security monitors exactly at midnight for just a single moment, another office can sometimes be seen. It is always silent, every employee is quietly working, and near the front of the room a woman wearing badge 454 sits at her desk. She never looks toward the camera, because she already knows the next employee will not arrive by elevator, they will arrive when the night shift begins.